This is Wendy. Wendy is a special education paraeducator at a Maryland public school. She teaches children with special needs and helps them to learn challenging material. Wendy is dedicated to her work and her students count on her to learn. But sometimes Wendy gets called away from her students when there are staffing shortages. Instead of teaching special education classes, she might have to supervise lunch or recess, because there aren't always other adults available to do these jobs while Wendy should be teaching. The result is students miss class while Wendy covers another person's job. Why does this happen? Because of budget shortages. You see, when not enough money comes in to pay for our schools, students like Wendy's lose out on crucial instruction. It's not their fault, but they end up suffering the consequences. Traditionally, funding for public schools centers on local property taxes. But this puts too much pressure on lower income areas and keeps many children in substandard schools, just because their parents' neighborhood doesn't have a bigger tax base. Right now, we have a once-in-a-generation opportunity to reform public education here in Maryland. The Kirwan Commission has studied the state's public education system and made its recommendations to improve schools for all children. Now it's up to the General Assembly, the House of Delegates and State Senate, to figure out how to take these recommendations and make them into law. There's lots to figure out, but the biggest question may be how to pay for all these improvements. Some people say the only way to do it is to push a huge tax hike on middle-class families. That's not true. There's a better way. Currently, Maryland state law lets corporations and some super-rich individuals get away with some outrageous tricks that let them skip out on paying their fair share toward our children's future. If we stop allowing them, we can make our tax code fairer and fund our schools at the same time. For example, corporations are allowed to not tell the state about all their profits, and then pretend that the profits they made in Maryland were actually made out of state and are not taxable here. Imagine if you did that with your income taxes. By catching up with other states and passing a law that requires what's called combined reporting, we can make sure corporations can't hide their profits and start paying their taxes, the same as anyone else. There are even more solutions. Our legislators can make it so that super-rich investors stop paying a lower rate on their investment income than you do on the income you earn, because right now, that's what they're doing. And we can put an end to huge tax breaks for corporations who don't need it, and stop giving taxpayer-funded incentives that don't yield any benefits for our communities or our state's economy. By saving money on corporate welfare and making our tax code fairer, we can ensure corporations and the super-rich pay their fair share toward our state's public schools. It's good for our schools, good for the economy, and good for students, like Wendy's. By having the super rich and large corporations pay their fair share towards our education system the same way the rest of us do, we can guarantee our children the future they deserve. But we can't do it without you. So follow the link on your screen and tell your delegates and your state senator that you support fully funding Kirwan and having corporations and the super rich pay their fair share towards funding our children's future. Also, don't forget to check out the Maryland Fair Funding Coalition. This coalition is uniting groups from across the state of Maryland, including educators, nonprofits, academics, and labor, to push for a fairer tax code and a better education system for all Maryland children. While you're there, don't forget to sign up for updates so that you can stay involved and help us guarantee that our children are heard in Annapolis this session. And of course, don't forget to follow the Maryland Fair Funding Coalition on Twitter and on Facebook.